Aleph. Parshas Tetzaveh hi parsha yechida b'Torah. Parshas Tetzaveh is the only portion of the Torah. L'achrei leidas Moshe b'Shiva ba'Adar. After Moshe's passing on Zion Adar, and the Rebbe adds Adar Rishon. That's already a discussion itself in the Gemara, and different hasichos the Rebbe discusses this. But seventh Adar, maybe Adar Rishon specifically, but it's the only parsha from when he was born. He was born on seventh Adar. That Shaloi Nisparish Bo Shmo Shel Moshe. So in the Chumash, the name of Moshe is not mentioned. Of course, we understand why the name of Moshe is not mentioned before his birth, because Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't born then. But from the time that he was born, from Zion Adar Rishon, his name is always mentioned. The Rebbe brings down for the Gemara Soita that Oisu Shona Shenelud Moshe Muberes Oisu. That's what we were talking about. That it's Adar Rishon. So the question is, why would there be the Parshas Tetzaveh? And then also there's an issue about Chumash Dvarim, because the whole Chumash Dvarim was said by Moshe Rabbeinu. There are several Parshas, his name is mentioned, and the Rebbe says that the name Moshe goes, that it says in the beginning is like one continuation. But it's another discussion. We'll try to concentrate mostly on this, on the Sikha. The bottom line is, the issue is that Moshe Rabbeinu, his name is not mentioned in the Parshas Tetzaveh. And this is the Parsha since he was born on Zion Adar, the only Parsha that his name is not mentioned. At least in Dar Chomesh up to Mishnah Torah. So we find two reasons. Aleph, number one, Kivon Shebeshiva Ba'Adar Rishon Meis Moshe, since he died on the first day of Adar Rishon. Nirmas man his talkuse bekach, so therefore his time of passing is hinted by the that his name is not mentioned during a portion of the Torah. Shekri also when do we read the Parshas Tetzaveh? That's within close proximity to Zion Adar, when he passed away. As the Rebbe points out in the Horus, we learned in the Sikha before that in the Sichos, meaning that there is a Zion Adar Rishon would be the smichas to Parshas Tetzaveh when it's a Shana Mu'beres. So, because Moshe Rabbeinu's passing was in Zion Adar, which is near the Parshas Tetzaveh, so that's why Parshas Tetzaveh doesn't have his name to hint of his passing. That's one reason. Number two, base. Another reason we find is Kivon Shomar Moshe. Since Moshe said V'im Ayin Mecheni No Misifrecha, Moshe Rabbeinu was davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and asking him to forgive the Bnei Yisrael. And he said that if Hashem doesn't want to forgive them, he wants, please erase me from the sefer. Doesn't want to be in the Torah. And we know that the Killas Chacham Afilah tonight, when a Chacham makes a curse, even though he makes it unconditional, and V'lenis Kaim at night, he said on a condition, I'm only cursing, the curse will only apply if it doesn't meet the condition, or under these conditions, but the condition did not take place. V'lenis Kaim at night. So in this case, Moshe Rabbeinu said, if you're not going to forgive them, then erase me. But if Hashem forgives them, then he doesn't want to be erased. He's not asking that. But we say that if you make the Tanai, he makes the Kalola on a Tanai, it's still bo. It's still going to come to it. So L'chein, therefore, even though Hashem did respond favorably to the request, and therefore the Tanai was not fulfilled. He only wanted to be erased if Hashem is not going to forgive them. But Hashem did forgive them, so the condition that he put the curse should be on this condition did not come through. Still, that mecheni that he asked did, that curse that he said did become true in one parsha of the Torah. So these are the two reasons. But the Rebbe says both of these reasons require explanation. The first reason that it talks about the Moshe Rabbeinu's passing on Zion Oder, which is near Parshas Tetzaveh, but Moshe Rabbeinu was also born then. So why do we find only the mention of his passing, a memory that no name of Moshe, but he was born on there, and the birth of Moshe actually overrides, is stronger than Moshe Rabbeinu's passing, as we see in the Gemara. So the Aleph, Benegei lahatam the Mises Moshe. Stay at time in Derish Bir of Hezbollah. Both of these reasons we need more explanation. We need to have more understanding of here. Number one, Benegei lahatam the Mises Moshe b'shiva ba'oder, as far as the reason. As far as the reason of Misas Moshe on the 7th day of Oder, Kivan Shebeshiva Ba'Oder Meis Ubeshiva Ba'Oder Noilad, since Moshe was both born on the 7th of the Oder, but he was passed away, but he also was born of Oder. So using the Lashon of the Gemara, Kedaihu Yom Haleida Shetchaper Ala Misa, that it is worthy for the day of birth to atone for the day of Misa, which means the day of birth overrides the Misa. And that is emphasized, Kimudgesh, this is emphasized by Bittul, Simchas Hamam V'Gzerosachulu, the nullification of Haman's joy and his decree, nullification of the decree as well. As the Gemara says, when the lottery fell on the month in which Moshe passed away, Kivan Shaloi, so he was very happy. Why? Kivan Shaloi Hoyodea, for he didn't know. He knew that he didn't know, he knew that he died, but also B'Shiva Ba'odar Neilad, that Moshe Rabbeinu was born on Zion Oder. So, since we also have a positive and an overriding aspect by Moshe, the fact that he was born, Loma Nikra B'Toira Remes Alzman Misosei, why do we have in Torah a hint for the day of his passing? Because it is not mentioned his name, by not mentioning his name, why don't we have the time of his birth, that atones for the Misa? We should have that as well. And as the Rebbe will explain later on, actually, the Ato Tetzaveh represents the birth. There is a hint in the Parsha, as the Rebbe will explain. But now the Rebbe is asking, it seems like we're commemorating Moshe Rabbeinu's passing by not having his name mentioned in the Parshas Tetzaveh, and the more important event, which atones for the day of passing, which is his day of birth, we don't have a commemoration for that. Why is that? On the second matter, that the name has to be erased somewhere because so why was it put in the Parshas Tetzaveh, which precedes Mechenino? Should have been after Kisis over there. Beis, Benegei lahatam da'amiras Mechenino misifrecha. So as far as the reason we say Mechenino misifrecha, that's why we have a parsha which doesn't have his name. So why was we choose the Seder of Tetzaveh? Kivon Shamirazu. This was said, was said after the 17th day of Tammuz, after the luchas were broken, after Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain. So this was written in the Torah, in the portions of Kisisa, where the story of the Egel and the break of the luchas, which comes after Tetzaveh. Lama nirmas kiyuma. Why was the fulfillment of Moshe's mechenino that he said in Parshas Kisisa? The smichas of Shivas Ba'odar. Why is it close to Shiva Ba'odar with Parshas Tetzaveh? Why does it connect? Why it's in Parshas Tetzaveh in the close to his passing? Especially. It goes to, according to the opinions, so Parshas Tetzaveh Nemra Lifnei Chet HaEgel. Yeah, according to Rashi, the whole Mishkan, everything was done after the Egel. That's when Hashem is Nesratz. Hashem tells him to build the Mishkan. But according to many opinions, according to the Zohar, the Ramban, the Eibishter, said Ata Tetzaveh before Kisisa. So besides what's written in the Torah, there's Zayin Oder, what the Rebbe said, but over here, it's Bechlal, the Parshas Tetzaveh was said before the Chet HaEgel. And the prayer of Moshe Rabbeinu is in Parshas Kisisa on Shivas B'Tammuz after the Egel. So why is the fulfillment of Mecherin Misifrecha in the Parshas Tetzaveh, which precedes the Parshas Kisisa? And Bechlal, the Rebbe wants to know the connection between these two reasons. Gam tzorich lahavin hakesher v'hashaychus the beis hatayim is elazeh. What's the connection? And what's the two reasons how they connect to each other? Since they are reasoning for the same idea, why Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned, it makes sense to say that there is a connection between them, as the Rebbe will say later on. The Rebbe explains that both of these inyonim, Mechenino, which represents Moshe Rabbeinu's essence, his Mesiras Nefesh for the Yidden, his connection to the Yidden, and the fact that Noilad, which was also represents the essence, represents the mazel, represents, these are connected. As the Rebbe will explain in the Zicha, but here, in the note, the Rebbe means that the Rebbe speaks in other Sichas. The Emerson, you can say the connection is that both of these, the questions should all be answered by the reason why the Parshas Tetzaveh was chosen. It's really Mechenino. That was the reason. And the reason why we choose the Parshas Tetzaveh, because that's close to the Moshe Rabbeinu's passing. So we're sort of combining both answers. But the Rebbe said it's not just to combine both answers. We want to find an inherent connection in the fact that it's next to Zayin Oder. That's why Tetzaveh, this reason, and the reason that the Mechenino, how all this comes out together, the Rebbe will explain at the end of the Sikha. But now the Rebbe is going to go away and explain the whole idea of the seventh day of Oder that Rebbe mentioned from the Gemara, that the Oder, seventh day of Oder, basically changed around the whole month of Oder. Why would the one day Shiva B'Odar is Oder? That's Moshe Rabbeinu's birth. So why doesn't it change just Shiva B'Odar? What happens here that we have the whole month? And the Rebbe will explain the mazel, that everything that takes place in this month. Base, so we'll understanding by first explaining the Goydel Ha'ilu, the latest Moshe B'Shiva B'Odar. What is such a big deal of Moshe Rabbeinu's being born on the seventh day of Odar? And we say, Yom Simcha, it's such a day of happiness, it impacts the entire month of Odar. The whole month of Odar, The whole month of Adar becomes a Yom Simcha. That's what happened. He was happy that Be'adar Meis Moshe, so the whole month. Yerach Shemeis Moshe, he was happy. Samach Simcha Gedola. He didn't know that he was born, and this brought on the Hana and the Hapechu, brought that it became it's a month of Simcha. The Rebbe brings down from the Gemara again. So what does the Gemara tell us? We got to the month of Adar. Once the lottery fell on the month of Adar, Samach Haman Simcha Gedola. So Haman became very rejoiceful. Omar, he said, Nafali Pur B'Yerach Shemeis B'Moshe. I have a lottery on the day that Moshe Rabbeinu died, but V'lo Yedeya, he didn't really know Shebeshiva B'Adar Meis or B'Shiva B'Adar Noila, that Moshe Rabbeinu was both born on the 7th of Adar. He died on the 7th, but he was also born there. So what happened? Hainu. So that means there was a month that he died, but it's the same month that he was born. So the month that he was born in, which means Shaleidas Moshe B'Shiva B'Adar, that Moshe Rabbeinu's birth on the 7th of Adar, Pa'eles Bittul V'Afichas Gezeiras Haman B'Chodesh Adar. That impacts and that nullifies and turns over the decree of Haman in the month of Adar. It's the month of Adar. It was the month of Adar which Haman was happy that it came in, and it's the month of Adar that he didn't know that it turned around. It's the month that Achodesh, as says in the Megillah, that was turned around the Simcha. That's why Mishanichnas Adar Marim B'Simcha. It's the month, as soon as we enter into Adar, we increase in joy. We also know that Adar Bori Mazoli, or Bori, the Bori Takif Mazoli. It's a different version, the different girsas. But Adar is healthy, strong, a good mazel, a good fortune. This is something unique, a special advantage in the month of Adar. We don't find anything like this in the other month of the year. Why is it that the month of Adar is changed around? The only thing we know is that on Zayin Adar, Moshe Rabbeinu was born. What does that got to do, Zayin Adar, with the whole month? In the simple words of the Gemara, we only have evidence from the Gemara, Shaleidas Moshe b'chodesh Adar, that the birth of Moshe in the month of Adar, mevateles umechaperes alo inyan habilti rotzim mimisose b'chodesh zeh, that it nullifies and it atones for that unwelcomed, undesirable matter that he died in this month. Someone was happy. He was rejoicing. And therefore, we know that he was born. But so we know one thing unique over here is that the month that he was happy is nothing to be happy about. Haman. Punkt verkehrt. It's a month that he was born. But it doesn't mean we don't have evidence to be glazed to godel malosei shel chodesh zeh yoser mikol shar chodshei. It doesn't mean that this will be a greater advantage than all other months of the year. That this month will have more mazel. We only know that it takes away from Haman's joy because of the death of Moshe, but we don't know that it has a stronger mazel. And the Rebbe says, Shaila Zum is Chazekes Yosef. This question is even strengthened based on what is explained in the Midrashim of our sages of blessed memory. They talk about the specific of the lottery that Haman drew. It says like this: when Haman the evil said that he wants to destroy the Yidden, he said, "Hey, how can I dominate them?" So he says, "I'm going to throw these lotteries." He started off in the month of Nisan. And then there was the special Nisan has Pesach. The year on years whose Pesach cotton as the second Pesach. He went on and he was counting those privileges, special merits of all the 11 months of the year. Until he came up to the Rosh Chodesh of Adar. Over there he found no merit, no special merit in the month of Adar. So now each month has its constellation. So he go in and checked the constellation. He looked at the Tleh, Schus Pesach. The Pesach is brought from a Tleh, from a sheep. Shoir Yosef is compared to an ox. He went on and he counted all these privileges of all these constellations, of all the 11 years of the month of the year. Until he came across the other is the pious, is the order of the fish. Fish, he doesn't find the zechus over there. Rashi brings the note that Rebbe brings down, either Yid Gularev, but according from the Medrash, Somach Miyad Omar, so he was happy. He says, Other Ein Lo Zechus, Umazol Ein Lo Zechus. Other has no, the month itself, no Yomim Tovim, nothing there. The Mazel, the Dogim, Ein Lo Zechus, there is no Zechus for that. But Lo Yoid, and not only that, not only does no Zechus, Al Shuada Meis Moshe Rabbeinu. Top of that, Moshe, their teacher, died then. Lo Yoid, they didn't know Shebechad B'Odar Meis Moshe. The Taka Moshe Rabbeinu died in the first day of Odar. B'Echad B'Odar Neil Moshe, and on the first of Odar, Moshe was born. The Rebbe, by the way, in the notes over here, this Medrash doesn't really, that it disagrees on the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was passed on Zion Oder, and he passed away B'Shvi and Zion Oder. The Girsa needs to be here also, Zion Oder, not B'Echad B'Odar, and the Horus. But in any event, this is what Haman saw on the month of Adar. Omar, Kishem, Shadogim Bailim, just like fish swallow, so I'm going to swallow them. That's going to be the month I'm going to be able to do my plan against the Yid to swallow them. Omar le'akadosh baruch hu, Hashem says to him, Rasha, evil, dogim, pamim nivloim, upamim boilim. Sometimes fish, sometimes they are swallowed, and sometimes they swallow. That man, Haman, nivla, min haboilim. He will be swallowed from those that swallow. You're not going to end up swallowing them, but you're going to be swallowed. You're going to be the one that is swallowed. So it seems to emphasize over here. It almost seems that Moshe's birth just countered, it offset that bad thing, the additional bad thing. There was no mazel on other. But he said, there's also a bad luck because of Misas Moshe Rabbeinu. So over here we're saying that it's no longer that Bilti Rotsu should misase. that this undesirable that death of Moshe brought about, the dogmas built to have shoris that nibaleya isop. I'm going to use this month to swallow them. So now you think you want to swallow them because sometimes, and now you thought that you're going to swallow them. That, in other words, because sometimes they swallow, sometimes they get swallowed up. And now the Eibusher tell them you're going to be swallowed up. So instead of you being able to harm them, they're going to belay you. But the month itself, but the month itself remained in the status and the situation. That didn't change. It doesn't have a merit. There's no special day in there. And the mazel doesn't have a schus either. In this case, they're going to swallow you. You're not going to swallow them. But for sure, we don't see that it should have an advantage, an additional privilege over other months of the year. Basically, the Rebbe wants to know why is Adar considered to be a strong, a mazel dika month, if the lack of mazel, it seemed like from the story of the Medrash that Adar is least than all the other months. It doesn't have any Yom Tovim until Adar, and it doesn't have till Purim, doesn't have the mazel of the fish, doesn't have any special. And the way the Eibusher countered is just saying, you think that you're going to be swallowing them because Moshe Rabbeinu died. He says, no, because Moshe Rabbeinu, he'll swallow you, the mazel of fish, but you still don't have a mazel. And here we're saying, not only is the month of Adar equal to the other month, but actually it's even greater than the other months. And the Rebbe says, the Rebbe is going to explain that in the month of Adar, just like we know that the month of the day a person is born, his mazel, his goiver. So the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu impacts the mazel of the month as well, like the day, but like the mazel as well. Moshe Rabbeinu's birth adds to the mazel of that month. The month becomes a mazel month because of the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu. Gimel. We can say the Bir Yedua, based on what is known, on the birth of a person, the mazel that dominates on that day helps the person. The mazel of the day helps the person. That the mazel of the person should overpower. That Yisrael should be by Amalek, by Mechemes Amalek. That the Gover Yisrael. What does it mean? That means that the person's is strengthened by the mazel of that day. So therefore, Yesh Loimar, based on that concept, Shebiyom Eludosah Shel Moshe. So we talk about Moshe's birthday, and Moshe is Moshe who Yisrael, Yisrael and Moshe. Moshe and the Yidden are the same. Nosi Hador Kicholate, Kan Nosi HaKoil. The leader of the generation is like the entire generation. So the Nasi is everything. So a Nasi's birthday becomes the birthday of all Yidden. And now, not only the Yidden of his generation, but the Kivon Shis Pastusa, the Moshe B'chol Dorim V'Dorim. Moshe's expansion is in every generation. There is a Moshe Rabbeinu. Koilo Moshe's Kol B'nei Yisrael Sev Kol Adoros. So this would include in Moshe Rabbeinu all the generations. Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday is the birthday of all the Yidden of his generation, all generations, which basically means that on Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday, Goiver Mazolam Shel Yisrael, the Yidden's mazel, and the Rebbe will go into, the Rebbe explains a mazel Yisrael, but this is a different level of mazel, and the Rebbe explains in the others, and the Rebbe will explain later on what exactly, in a deeper level, what exactly is this mazel. But generally, on a simple level, the good fortune of a Yid, his mazel, on the day of his birthday, and on Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday, that good mazel is of all Yid, because Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday connects to all Yid. So that's as far as a mazel for your birthday, the mazel from the day. But umezem gam benegela mazel da chodesh. That also understood as far as the good fortune, not only for the day, but for the month. But on the month that Moshe was born, which basically the Yidden were born, Oizer hamazel shel chodesh. So the mazel of that month helps Liz Gabrus amazel di Yisrael, to strengthen the mazel of the Yid. Therefore, because it strengthens the mazel of the Yid, the mazel of the month strengthens the mazel of the Yid. So that's why Oder the body v'tokif mazole. That's why Oder, which is strong, and the strong mazel is because that strengthens the mazel of the Yidden, which birth is on Shiva B'Odar, which is in the month of Odar. That means that the birth of Moshe, which is the Yidden's birth, Shiva B'Odar, Pa'eles al kol chodesh. This impacts the entire month. Shaboy goiver bori v'takim mazon she'Yisrael. And therefore, in that month, it's healthy and strong. The mazel of the Yid, that impacts on the whole month, because the month is what gives the chodesh the strength to Moshe. So Moshe's birth strengthened that whole month. So basically, Rebbe explains now the Medrash. It's not just that Moshe was born. Memele, the dogim will be boile, so he won't be able to hurt them. But because Moshe was born, changed around the whole mazel. This month, the Yidden's mazel, because mazol goiver. When the Medrash concludes, Moshe didn't know that Moshe was born. This is also a response. He's actually responding to the fact that you claimed, Haman claimed, that Oder has no zchus, and the mazel of Dogim doesn't have a zchus. No. So he said, what is the answer? The fact that he was born there, we don't need the special zchus of Oder and the mazel of Oder. In which we need the special zchus of the month and the mazel. Zchus Pesach kiyetz b'azikadu. Beglal sheyeshna inyanayla yoser ma zchus shel hachodesh mazolei. There is something even greater than the special privilege of the chodesh mazolei, which is his gabrus hamazel Yisrael. The fact that the Yidden's mazel in this month, that makes the month a stronger mazel. Kivan shaleidas Moshe, since Moshe's birth to Yisrael, which is the Yidden's birth, chodesh Adar, po'eles ha'ezer the mazel ha'chodesh, this impacts the help of the mazel ha'chodesh, afshen l'schus, im noroz n'schus, this gabrus ha'mazel di Yisrael. So that mazel of the month, without having that special schus, helps the strengthening the mazel of the Yisrael, and that mazel of the Yisrael has a greater thing for this month than its own mazel. How does this express this great mazel that we're talking about that the month had because of latest Moshe? So the Rebbe is going to bring down the various aspects of how this is expressed. The mazel of Oder. Dalet. Yeshleimer can say she's Gabrus Mazolum Shel Yisrael b'Chodesh Oder, that the strengthening of the mazel of the Yidden in the month of Oder, because of Moshe's birth, Nikeres Kam Bekachi can be recognized also in the fact Shechodesh Oder u'Chodesh Ibur. Which month is the month of leap that makes it a leap year? Is always the month of Oder, Chodesh Kofel. It's the double month. Oder is a double month. Beis Chadoshim, 2 months of Oder. It's 1 month of Oder, which is 2 months. Shishim Yom becomes 60 days. See, this mazel, a month should have 60 days. 2 others. By Yodei Davke, and it's Davke, the month of Oder. This makes up the lacking that the year of the moon, which is less than the solar year, 11 days less, 365 is the solar year. You have 11 days less for the 12 months of the lunar cycle of the Levana. And the leap year makes it up. So it's a month. Oder is the one that makes up. The Adla Oifen, Shel Shleimus Utmimus. It makes it wholesome and complete. Shonot Mima, a whole year. Yoiser Mishnas Acham. It's even more than the year of the soul, because 13 months of the solar cycle of the Chotche Levana is more than the one cycle of the sun, which is 365 days. The Rebbe brings out in the Ha'oreh that solar is 365, and Shnasa Ibur, there's 385 days, 20 days more. So you see that the month of Adar has able to make up for the Chotche Levana and more, and goes even ahead. So here you see the uniqueness and the special mazel of the month of Adar. From all the month of the year, which are the solar years, lunar years, Levana years, Chotche Levana, Hasherech Nisro, which apply to the Yidden, Shadayim Levana, Meinim Levana. Yidden are similar to the Levana. Shebasidin Chadash Kemeisum, they're compared to the Levana, and we count by the Levana months. Basidin Chadash Kemeisum, we're going destined to be renewed, just as the sun and the moon renews its appearance every month. As opposed to the nation of the world, they are similar. They count to the sun. It doesn't renew. They're not going to be lischadish k'misa. So, which is the month of all the month that we count, the Chotche Levana? Which is the month which Yidden are compared to the months of the Levana? Which is the month that has the special mazel? That's the month of Adar. Godlo Marlosu Chodesh Adar. That is the great advantage of the month of Adar. Bori v'takiv mazli. That mazel is strong. Why? The Yidden were born, and that's the mazel of the Yidden. Kama pratim is that. Rebbe enumerates now the details. Number 1, Aleph, Oder Dishnasa Ibur. When you do have an Oder in a leap year, then you have 2 months. Sha'achidush de Meilad HaLevona. So this special novelty, Levana is recreated. That's a re-energizing, takes place twice in the month of Adar because we have 2 others. Sharem is Al-Chidush de Yisrael, which is hints of the renewal of Shred of Israel, who by from the Kiflaim to Shia. There's a double portion. Base, another aspect of it. In an order of a leap year, yes, Shishim Yom. There are 60 days, which hints to the idea that things become nullified in 60. So in the joy of the 60 days, you're mevatel all negatively. This is giving the strength to negate all matters that are not desirable. To be mevatel b'shishim, b'afichos l'tov, and we turn them to good. Va'ad sheru'im lachilosum shel Yisrael li yizdam u'basar kibsorim, until they become fit to be eaten by the Yidden, to become dam u'basar kibsorim. This is to become like part of their bodies. Meaning, when something is batel b'shishim, therefore it becomes kosher, and therefore you can eat it, and it can become part of you. So, in this case, we're taking all the negative matters, turning them to support, and it brings down kimoshel, dvarim charifim, from the Tanya Perich of Zion, that take things that are sharp, or chamutzim, or bitter, but they become very well spiced up and very well prepared, till they become delicacies to return the soul, to bring you delight and pleasure to the soul. Meaning that the bad things get sweetened by the shishim of the other, and they become pleasantness. And we take those unpleasant situations and we make them adan l'hoshva nefesh. And the third aspect, the main aspect is al yodei nasis hashleimus d'chol chodsh hashana. Through other becomes the wholesomeness of all the month of the Levana. They all become equal to the solar year. Sheremes al kiyum hayil. This hints to the fulfillment of the promise. That the Levana will be like the shine of the Levana will be like the sun. Shivasayim ker shivasayomim. It will be 7 times as strong like the light of the first 7 days. This will be lost in love when they'll be renewed like them. So there's a hint for this, that now the Levana is as strong or stronger than even the Shtas Achama, than the Levana, which was saying that it'll be even stronger than the Shivas Hayom. So the whole Zeh, and the Rebbe says all this, that talking about the ultimate, that it hints to the coming of Mashiach, is Mudgesh Yosef, B'kivi Shonazu, the way it's set up in this year, in the year that Tavshinun Beis, Shorosh Chodesh Adarishon Chal B'yem Shlishu B'yem Revi, that Rosh Chodesh Adarishon came out on Tuesday and Wednesday. What's special about Tuesday and Wednesday? So all these show signs for the positive in the month of Adar. So we know on Tuesday, there's 2 times the pasuk says Kitov, which is Kiflaim Teshiyah. This is double to support in a double way. And on the Monday, there was no Kitov because there was separation. So this turns out that on Tuesday, you're making up also for the Monday. It also fixes the undesirable matter of Monday. That was, there was separation. And that's why there's no Kitov over there. And on the Tuesday that followed, 2 times, one for completing the work that started on the second day, and one for the day that was done, for the work that was done on Tuesday. So basically, you had 2 Kitovs, and not only 2 Kitovs, but one is fixing. One kitov comes as a makeup to fix the other day. So that's Tuesday. What is Yom Revi'i? Yom Revi'i, Wednesday. Second day of Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon. On that day, the two great luminaries were placed. Also hints to the fact that the light of the Levana will be like the sun, like the light of the 7 days of creation. Why? Because the moon, before it was diminished, originally Hashem created the two great luminaries. Before, the moon complained and then it got diminished. But Yom Revi'i represents the moon the way it's going to be lost in love. So that has Monday, Tuesday's specialty, and the Wednesday's specialty. And mostly, and the main thing is Tziru Beis Hayomim, the Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon. You're combining the two matters of Adar Rishon, which is Shlishi Urevi, which is Gimel and Dalet. Gimel and Dalet spells God. God, but God is a mazel, good mazel. Gimel v'Dalet. Hatzirav the Gimel Shlishi, to combine the Gimel, the Dalet Revi, who God. God means mazel tov, a good fortune. So in this year, when it's Tuesday and Wednesday, more emphasize the idea that it's a strong, healthy, and strong mazel. So this is also combined to the birth of Moshe, because when you add Gimel and Dalet, 4 and 3 is 7. When you come to the Kabbalah Sha'olim Shiva, there it comes to into 7. Hainu. So what it is Shalidas Moshe, B'Shiva Ba'oder, that Moshe's birth on the 7th of Oder. Poyeles, his Gabrus Hamazel, that impacts the strengthening, the overpowering of the Mazel. Boru B'Takum Mazole, B'Chol Chodesh Oder, in the entire month of Oder. Shenichlal B'Beis Hayomim, and that's included the 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. Gimel v'Dalet, God, Mazel Tov, Boru B'Takim. So it all fits in the Mazel of Zayin Oder that changes around the whole Oder. And this year it's Gimel and Dalet, which is Mazel Tov, all of Mazel. So basically, the Rebbe explained the idea, what we see, this big Mazel of the month of Oder. Oder is the makeup month, and the Rebbe brought out the various different parts in the makeup month that it's a double, Moelet Levana, there is 60, Batel B'Shishim, and it makes up for the Levana becomes equal and more than the sun, which is representative of the Asur Love, which is also the Gimel Dalet, the good Mazel, and both the Gimel and the Dalet, and all these various details. And the Rebbe now is going to place a deeper idea in the level of the Mazel of the month of Adar. Yesh levair toichna in this Gabrus Mazolon shel Yisrael. So we can explain what is the idea that the Mazel of the Yidden, which is Mitzad Lidas Moshe, because Moshe Rabbeinu was born b'Chodesh Adar, the month of Adar be'Emek deeper. What is Mazel the Yisrael Koy al Sheiresh HaNeshama L'mayla? The Mazel of a Yid references the root of the Neshama. Every Yid's Neshama has a root above. Ki Yidua, as it's known, Sheiridas HaNeshama L'matel Islabish B'guf, that the Neshama's descent below to dress up in a body, Hi ha'orem HaNeshama B'labad, it's only a ray from the soul. Aval Ikar HaNeshama Mekoyr Nishal L'mayla, but the main Neshama and its source remains above. V'nikras Mazel, it's called a Mazel, that part of the soul that stays above. As we say, Odom the Islay Mazlo, a human that has a Mazel. expression, the Gemara, or v'hakoil toli b'mazel, everything hinges on mazel. What is the word mazel? It's meloshen noizel. It drips from there. Shu hamoker liyus noizel mimeno hashpah v'ruach chaim. That is the source from which it runs, it drips from there, the flow and the ruach chaim. Here we're saying we all have the Shorish and Neshama, which is a mazel. What does it mean when we say in mazel Yisrael? That is koya mazolos hasorim v'kechovim asher cholak v'chol. That is talking about referencing the mazolis from the sorim and the stars, the officers, which Hashem has separated for all the nations. That's their mazel. She Yisrael heim l'maylam mazel l'seilu. Yidden don't have those, they're higher. Avagam Yisrael yesh mazel, but Yidden also have a mazel. Adrabe, a mazel the Yisrael. Not only do they have, but they have a much greater. Hunayla yesem ein arech mishar mazolis is much higher than the mazolis. Kamazel shalahem hu mibchinas ayin, because their mazel is from the level of ayin. Ein mazel Yisrael is ayin mazel Yisrael. Derech mashikosuv, but it's written v'chochma me ayin temotze. Chochma comes from ayin. Ayin sheina musik. Ayin means that it's not graspable. That is the mazel. V'lochein yesh bahem inyan amsidas nefesh l'maylam haseichel. That's why by Yidden we find the level of self-sacrifice, which is beyond seichel, because it comes from a higher level, from the level of the ayin, which is the mazel Yisrael. The Inyan Zeh, and this idea of this ayin is mudgesh b'lidas Moshe, is emphasized in Moshe's birth, b'chodesh Adar, on the month of Adar. Shigam aleda the Yisrael, which is also the birth of the Yid, because Moshe Yisrael, Moshe Yisrael. Ki leido keshura im etzem hametzius shalamayla mishem. We talk about birth. We're talking about the essence of the existence, which is beyond and higher than the name. When he's born, he's still not called the name you get later. The Remes, so the birth hints al etzem neshama. That is hints on the essence of the neshama, which is beyond the 5 names that she was called. Even from the Yechida, which is the highest. Shegam Hishem, Le'etzem HaNeshama. That is also a name for the Etzem HaNeshama. But when the time of the birth, you're even higher than that. This is the idea, the content. What does it mean, the mazel of the Yid? It's Etzem HaNeshama b'chinas ayin b'chodesh Adar. And the month of Adar is the strengthening of the essence of the Neshama of a Yid. That part which is higher than the Neshama, which stays above, that mazel is strong, is overpowered in that level. The latest Moshe Lepurim. So now we can explain the connection of the birth of Moshe to Purim. That Muhammad didn't know that he was born. So you see that Moshe Rabbeinu's birth has to do with the miracle of Purim specifically. Because we see is quoting from the Tetzaveh. For we see for all the days that the Yidden were in danger from the Gezerah of Haman. They were all with self-sacrifice. For every while, hour and hour, they were ready to give themselves over to be killed. And not to transgress the religion. They were great to give up their life to sanctify Hashem's name. Because if they wanted to change their religion, leave Yiddishkeit, Haman wouldn't do anything to them. Shaloi gozer el ala Yehudim. He only decreed against the Jews. Elosheim mosra atzmam lamos kol hashana kula. But they gave themselves over, ready to die all year. No thought of anything outside, God forbid, did not enter their mind. They were ready with Mesiras Nefesh. How were they ready with that Mesiras Nefesh? Where this comes from? The power for that comes through the revelations of the essence of your soul. This is what the birth of Moshe means, the etzem, the chodesh Oder, on the month of Oder. That's gilui. Leida gamalosh gilui. Gilui means revelation. Birth means it was revealed. Ha'etzem the Yisrael. The essence of the Yid was revealed. Yesh loymar. So we can say this is also hinted in the language of our sage blessed memory. They say sha'oder bori v'takif. It's healthy and strong, the mazle. Shahamazel hu be'oifen, that the mazel is in a way shel chayzek v'takif. It's strength, force, and strong. Al derech v'govar Yisrael. Strength Yisrael, which means that an other, that essence on the Neshama is there, function, the Leida, his galus. Kivon sheba other mizgaber mazolum shel Yisrael. Since an other, the mazel of the Yidden is strengthened, that is the level of ayin, etzem haneshama, azai mizgale hachoizik v'atoikiv. So that reveals the force and the strength, the body v'takiv, the health and the strength. That's when Hashem mazolei, the kudas hayadush of kol echad v'echad Yisrael. That pitel yid, that point of Judaism, which every yid has, that essence, and the month of Adar is revealed. He has the strength and he has the force to sacrifice for the sanctity of a blessed name. So this is the month of Adar, and that's how the Yidden had the koyach to stand in Mesiras Nefesh. This idea is also hinted in the name of what they called Ador. Ador means like Loshen Adir, strength. Shepirusha Teke B'Gvura. K'mayim Razal, we find that the sages' blessed memory say, one who wishes to, his assets should be sustained, Yitabahem Ador, should plant them the Ador. That's the kind of a planting which is called Ador. Shenemar Adir B'Morim Hashem. So that is a level of strength, a level of sustaining. Adar is a language of sustain and strength. That's why we call it Adar, because this is the month in which is emphasized the strength and the force of a Yid. They're called Adirim, strong ones. K'mayim Razal, as the sages of blessed memory say, Adirim Elu Yisrael. The Gemara says that Adirim, these are the Yidden. Shenemar va'adirei kol chefetz bom. Adir comes from Loshen Chayzik va'emetz, strength and force. This chazik b'avodas beirim, to strengthen themselves in the service of their Creator. It's from the Marsha over there on the Gemara of the Adirim, but they're called Adirim. This would include, and specifically, this strength and the and the courage to Mesiras Nefesh in Echad, when you say Shema Yisrael Shema Keren Echad, in a way that is beyond the seichel. That is the strength. That's the etzem haneshama. That's the adir. That's the other. That's the gilu of Yisrael. The mazel, the ayin. So, in a way of a remes, we can explain what the Medrash says. Other ein loy zechus. Umazole ein loy zechus. It's not ein they don't have, it's ayin loy zechus. And both the other idea. After we found out that Moshe Rabbeinu was born, that's why the mazel of the Yidden is strong, overpowers. Ador, Azayim is Gala, then is revealed. Ayin, Hamazal Yisrael, that level of Ayin, which is the mazel of Yisrael, who has Chus Shel Odor Mazoli. This is the privilege, the merit of Odor and its mazel is that ayin that you didn't have when there was Noilad Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu's birth, which reveals that level of ayin. The Rebbe is going to connect this also to number 7, Shiva B'Odem, Yesh Lahoisiv Vav. Yesh Lahoisiv Levair, can add and explain hasichos the latest Moshe, the connection of Moshe Rabbeinu's birth, Shiva B'Odem Davke to the 7th of Odem. Shiva Ba'oder Moira al Hashlemus the Chodesh Oder. The 7th of Oder points to the wholesomeness of the month of Oder. Shiva Yomim Ritzufim. These are 7 consecutive days. Shakoilim Kol Shiva Simei Shavua, which include all the days of the week, 7 days of the week. Shiva Simei Bereshis, the 7 days of the beginning. Yimei Habinyan, the days of this building of the world. Klolus Oilam, which is the world in general. And the month of Adar, you go through all the 7 days. Here is hinted, the Chodesh Adar, that this advantage, this wholesomeness of the month of Adar, the Adir Bamorim Hashem, Adar, which is Adir Bamorim Hashem, it extends, it penetrates, and it's revealed in the definitions in the world with its defines. Aleph Dor, Ador, Aleph Dor. Aleph Sherem is Amshachas Vigilu Aleph. It brings down the Aleph Aluf Shaloilam. Aleph Dor Ba'olam. Lius Lo Yisborich Dire B'Tachtonim. So Hashem should have a dwelling B'Tachtonim. And especially when it comes to the 7th day of Adar, we're making the dira door, the aleph, in all 7 days of the building in the 7 days of the week. This is also emphasized when Moshe Rabbeinu was born on 7th of Adar. K'maymer Hazal, sage of blessed memory, tell us, Shebishor Shenod Moshe, Nispale Habayis Kulei. When Moshe Rabbeinu was born, the entire home was filled with light. Hainu Shaleidas Moshe Paula. That means that Moshe's birth impacted an oira, a light, Kilu Elokuz B'chol Habayis Gidr Olam, in all of the home, in all of the definition of the world. This is more emphasized during the service and the activities that he did during his lifetime, which are all included when he was born and Shiva B'Odar. So through his actions in raising the Mishkan, that brought about the main and the wholesomeness of drawing down and revelation of godliness in the world. The door, the dir b'tachtonim. As it says in the Medrash, Chodesh Nisan. Chodesh Nisan arrived. Kodesh Baruch Hu instructed to raise the Mishkan. So he said to them, Shem sent to them through Moshe, Matem Yirei, what are you afraid of? Eden were saying, we made the Mishkan. When is the Shekhinah going to come and rest within our action? So he says, why are you worried? I've already come to my garden. The Shekhinah was here already. So Rabbi Yossi, Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, Legani, Ksiv Karan Legani, doesn't say Legan to the garden, but Gani, my garden. Leganuni, to my Mokim Shaho, Ikrim Mitchila, a place where I was in the beginning. The Gemara, Iker Shchina, Eine Betachtoinim Oiso. Was the main Shchina not in the Tachtoinim? So why are you worried? Kivon Shechota Odom, but after Odom sin, this Talka Shchina L'Rikia. Horisha, so the first level of Rikia. Chotu Mitzrayim Nistalka L'Rikia Shviya. By the Egyptian, it went all the way up to the seventh Rikia. Connect them, Abdu Shiva Tzadikim. Then there have the seven Tzadikim, Veridus Hashchina Min Eliyam Tachtoinim. They brought down the Shechina from the up to the below one. Avram Veridum and Hashvi L'Shisha. Avram from the 7th to the 6th. However, Moshe, Shehu Hashvi, he is the 7th, and Bechol Hashvin Chavivin, Hayridom Min Elyonim L'Tachtoinim. He brought it down from the upper one to the Tachtoinim. Omad Moshe Veridlor. So who brought it down? Moshe stood up and he brought the Shechina down to the earth. So this is the Moshe Rabbeinu accomplished that through his during Yemei Chayev to bring down the door, the Shechina B'Tachtoinim. Allah Yosef. Shetchilas Haschol Komas HaMishkon. We started to raise the Mishkan. B'Shivas Imameluim. Shoy Mishkan making us a Mishkan Mafarke, in which Moshe would raise the Mishkan and take it apart. Hoiso B'Shivas Hayomim HaAchronim. They took for the 7th last day, which everything goes by the end, Chodesh Adar, 7th day, because Chodesh Nisan was finally, there was Shmini L'Malui. From the 23rd of Adar till the end of the month of Adar. So we find in the beginning, we say, is the Adar, and then we have also the end, the Shleimar. So B'tchilas Chodesh Adar, Mudgash Yoiser HaToikev. In the beginning of the month of Adar, we see more emphasis on this thread, the Adir, the Ha'alef, the first letter of the word Adar, which is higher from the word Adir Bamorim Hashem. We see the Hashem's strength the way it's above. And then as the Chodesh moves on, mainly on the 7th day, in Moshe Rabbeinu was born. And how much more so when it comes to the end of Adar, in the 7th, in the last week of Adar, which Moshe started raising the Mishkan. With Geshes Yoiser, over there you see more emphasis, HaKavoneh v'Hatachlis, the intent and the goal, the Hamshochav is Galus Ba'ilam. But there you see how it comes down in the world. Aleph, Dor. Hemshech v'Sim Tevis Adora the Mishkan. You see the Ador through the Mishkan as it comes out into the door. But even in the end of the month of Adar, which we started raising the Mishkan, still, Moshe Rabbeinu raised it, he served in it, and then he took it apart. For the 7 days. And the Shechina did not rest in there. Still wasn't below in the world. Still in the level of Bamorim Hashem. The strength in the Morim. Kivon Sham Shocha Vagile Adain Lamayla Mo'ilim. The Hamshocha, the revelation was still higher for the world. The Iker Hamshocha is Galus Ba'ilam. But the main Hamshocha and revelation of the world, the Matai, the Akamas HaMishkan, the Mishkan raised Ba'ifun Shel Kviz Vashros HaShechina B'ay, in a way of permanence, and the Shechina should rest in it. Hoyso Beresh Chodesh Nisan, that took place on Chodesh Nisan. Yoim Hashmini L'Miluyim, the 8th day of the Miluyim. And as it continued, Chanukas HaMishkan, as the Mishkan was dedicated, they Yud Beis Nesiya Yisrael, through the 12 leaders of Israel, Nosei Echad L'Yoim, Nosei Echad L'Yoim, B'meshach Yud Beis HaYomim, in the continuation of the 12 days, Meresh Chodesh Nisan, from Rosh Chodesh Nisan ad Yud Beis Bo, until the 12th day, Nosei Echad L'Yoim. This emphasizes more the drawing down in relational godliness with Gidrei Ha'ilam, in the definition of the world. Yud Beis Sirufim, the 12 different combinations of the Shem Havaya of the name of Hashem. Because when you have 4 letters can be combined to come out in 12 different combinations. If you have 4 letters and you switch around, you have 12 combinations. So Meloshin Mahavet, so this is Lord Mahavet. Shayodom Nasi is Havas Hazman. This brings about the creation of time. The Yud Beis Chodesh Hashana. That's this level of 12 has to do with the Tzirufim, which brings about the creation of the time, which is 12, Yud Beis Chodesh Hashana, 12 months of the year, and also Vishavas Hamokim, because that is the Yud Beis Gvulei Alachsen, the 12 boundaries of Alachsen that you have in a square where you have the angles explained elsewhere. Hainu Shagam Begidrei Ha'olam. So that means that also in the Olam, the Yud Beis, meaning the time and space, which are all connected to the Yud Beis Tzirufim and Yud Beis Gvulei Alachsen, is Nimshachas from Galas Dargas Halakus Shalamaylam Olam. It's drawn down and is revealed the level of godliness which is higher than world. This is the idea of the Nes. That's Nes Vadle Nissen to miracles of miracles. Nissen, 2 nuns, Nisan, the nun and the nun, for represents Nissen. So that in Peil Mamish, it took place in the month of Nisan and till Yud Beis in the Hemshech. Similar as the Mazel strengthened the month of Adar, which you say Adar Boru Mazle, Shakol Moshe in latest Moshe Shiva Ba'adar, which is connected to Moshe Shiva Ba'adar, which we just learned. That's why it's the whole the Adar Mazel. So the Rebbe wants to say this is not only on the spiritual level of the Ayin and the Mazel and Lamailo, but this also comes down Lamata. Is Gabrus Mazol Mishal Yisrael B'Chodesh Adar. The strengthening of the Mazel of Yid in the month of Adar, Mazle Bora, he loyrak b'negei l'sherish ha'masham l'mayla. Not only as it connects to the source of the soul above, b'chinas ha'mazle l'mazle, alagamu v'ikir, but also and mainly b'negei l'amshacha v'gilu ba'oris ha'neshama in the revelation, and as the neshama comes short of the lamato, b'nislam shebeguf and is dressed up in the body. Kemudgish gam bekach, as emphasized also in the fact shemazel u'melosha noizl. Mazel means noizl, it drips, it flows down. That is the source from which it runs the flow and the spirit of life below. Kenal Sifei, as I said earlier in Sifei. V'meila is Gabrus HaMazel B'Chodesh Adar. And therefore, this strengthening of the Mazel in the month of Adar, Elis is Gabrus B'nei Yisrael. This impacts that the Yidden strengthening, Yosim Lamata while they're below. Shamas Begufim, souls in the body. And also as they occupy in worldly matters. As the 7th day of Adar, we said, it hints, making the dira dor, to making the ador in the 7 days of the building. To say, although the mazel goes on the Esem and Shama, which is ayin shein musig, which is not graspable. That's the idea of the strength and the force. But if you talk of mazol, we say that it's healthy and strong mazel. The mesidas nafshel malam haseichel, which the mesidas nafshel yan seichel, mikol makim. Nevertheless, it's not that you're leaving the world, mesidas nefesh kipshuta, which would mean literally mesidas nefesh. But on the contrary, that strengthened the force of Mesiras Nefesh, that is extends and is revealed in all of the matters of the world, the work in this world. To make for Hashem a dwelling place in the low world, as the Gemara says, in a very, very specific literal case. One has a judgment with a guy. Let him try to make himself available on the month of Adar because there's a healthy mazel. This impact of strengthening the mazel, it's not only as it relates to matters of the soul, in matters of Torah mitzvahs, also to the matters of the world. Even to a situation. It even impacts you're having a judgment of a guy. Adar is the time. That means that all the great milas of the month of Adar descends all the way into the lowest level. It's emphasized also in the miracle of Purim. The miracle of Purim is a botlog zayda. They nullified. They didn't have to Mesiras Nefesh. They didn't need to sacrifice their lives to be killed, God forbid. Not to violate the religion. The contrary, turn around is the opposite. The Yidden dominate their enemies. The fear of the Yidden fell on them. And therefore they were able to continue to occupy themselves with the fulfillment of mitzvahs in a wide way. Through light, joy, happiness, and yikor. Whether literally in the Pashto Pshat, and also the Chazal translated all these words. Simcha, Mishta, Yom Tov. You had the joy and a pardon in Yom Tov, in all the 127 countries of the government, of the king. And in a situation and a standing, that he was a king, second to the king of Achashverosh. Aval, notwithstanding all this, the miracle in Adar, we still are servants of Achashverosh. Wasn't a complete redemption. Even after redemption of Purim, our founder is still in exile. Not only are we still in exile, after the miracle of Purim, was the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash, and the great bitter Golus, and this difficult Golus, and all the decrees, and all the Holocausts, the destruction, God forbid, shall never be again. They talk about Mayim Tzora. Tzora should never come up again. That we had throughout the generation, until our generation. The tens of thousands of Jews, Hashem, have sacrificed themselves on the sanctity of Hashem's name. So we're standing in Golus, so we find themselves in a standing in a situation that we need strength, we need the force of the Etzem HaNeshama, of the essence of the soul, body v'tak of Maslei, the Mesiras Nefesh be'echad, to have Mesiras Nefesh ba'yechad. Tenuah, we need a movement to go beyond the world. We need to find that extra to be able to stay strong. Adir b'morim Hashem. Aleph, the Adir. Aleph, the Adir. The Aleph and the Adir. And the main and the wholesomeness of this revelation, extending this in below in the world, Hashem's building of the Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi, Gula Hashlishis, Yom Hashlishi, Kimen B'nichel Lefonov, Bayis Nitzchi, an eternal home, Gula Nitzchis, and an eternal Gula, Shein Acharei Golos, that no Golos follows it. That is Shaykh Nisan, Chodesh Nisan. So to have the full Gula, that's Nisan. B'Nisan Nigalu, B'Nisan Asin Ligoy. Now we're still Avda Chashverish now. We still need the Toik of the Chizuk. We need that Aleph. In Nisan, that will be the full. B'Nisan Nigalu Nisan Asin Ligoy. Shenemar Kimei Tzeis Chomeres Mitzrayim Aran Niflois. As the days that you left me Egypt, I will show you miracles. And then the Mishkan was raised, Shekoil Gam Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi, which includes the Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi B'Shorosh HaShechina, that the Shechina rested Canal Sivav, as we learned earlier in Sivav. And now the Rebbe is going to go back to the explaining the beginning of the Sikha of why the name of Moshe is not mentioned in there.